So over the last 8 weeks, we've looked at metta from lots of different angles. So we're going to go a bit cosmic tonight, and we're going to look at metta as the Brahma Vihara and how we do the radiating metta practice, which we have come across a little bit in this series, as we've had some references from the Metta Sutta, and Akasha Hridayam read the Metta Sutta in the puja we did a few weeks ago. So we'll be radiating metta into the 10 directions. Yeah. So if we have the slide up, we'll just have a little bit of a look. So metta is a Brahma Vihara. So Brahma Vihara can be translated as abode of Brahma. So Brahmas are a class of gods that inhabit the Rupa and Arupa lokas. So Vihara, like I say, is abode. So they're sometimes called the 4 immeasurables, which we'll be talking about a bit more. So most of us should be familiar with these. So we've got loving kindness, metta. We've got karuna or compassion. We have mudita or sympathetic joy, and equanimity. So these are the 4 immeasurables or 4 Brahma Viharas. So if we practice any of these, we dwell as if in the abode of Brahma. Okay, so we're going to be looking at the qualities of the immeasurables, but focusing on loving kindness. We move on one, please. So the word immeasurable, pramana, has a number of meanings. It does mean immeasurable, or a couple of other interesting words as the translation from Sanskrit. Infinitude, it's quite nice, or illimitable. It's not a word, so it's I, just in case you're confused by 3 dashes on the screen there. So illimitable. So what we're trying to get at is quite often, say, when we do the metta, we kind of put limits on it. Obviously, in the first stage, we have ourselves. In the second stage, we have our good friend. Third stage, neutral person. Fourth stage, difficult person. And then we include more and more people into our field of metta, or radiate metta out to more and more people. But usually there's a limit on that. We may go to people who have, local to us, maybe people on the planet, maybe sentient beings that we share the planet with. But usually there's a limit. But a Brahma Vihara, the immeasurables, are boundless. They're infinite. So part of the practice this evening is we're going to radiate loving kindness, which I'll talk about shortly. And as we get into that practice, we're going to be looking within ourselves and if we have any limits on our metta. Ideally, it just wants to be immeasurable. There wants to be no bound to the metta. So if we notice any limits, any bounds, any constrictions, we're just going to let them go. Okay, so that's our task. So it may be slightly different to how you've done the 5th stage. In effect, the whole meditation this evening is the 5th stage. So we're going to be looking at kind of letting go of our limits of metta. Okay, so I'm going to move on a slide and see where that takes us. So we're fairly familiar with this triangle. It's a bit simpler this evening, and it has been. So at the bottom of the triangle, we have the Kama Loka, the realm of desire. Above that, we have the Rupa Loka and the Arupa Loka. And as we saw last week, the Rupa and Arupa Loka, so the realm of form and the formless realms, are the abode of the Brahmas, the Brahma Loka, taken together. So meditation-wise, we talk about the dhyanas. So maybe familiar, we haven't covered it too much on this course, of the 4 dhyanas, first, second, third, fourth. What can you say? Nicely labeled. That we can perhaps work up. A number of you will certainly have an experience. The first dhyana, maybe second. The higher up you go into the third or fourth becomes, in normal conditions, quite hard. Personally, I find to get anywhere near them. Sometimes the first dhyana is accessible to us. And if we end up on a longer retreat, then sometimes our meditation may go into that direction. Not that it's important in terms of meditation that we experience the dhyanas all the time. They're a kind of a pleasant reward, if you like, spiritual chocolate, or whatever else you can put in place of chocolate. Yeah, and then we have the formless dhyanas. These aren't 1 to 4, or could say 5 to 8, following on for the normal dhyanas. These all have names. The first of the formless dhyanas is sphere of infinite space. Second one is sphere of infinite consciousness. The third one is sphere of no thingness. And the fourth one is sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. Don't worry, you won't be tested on that. So the great thing about the radiating practice is if we can let go of those boundaries, those limits on our metta, we kind of end up with something quite big and expansive. And then we can, if you like, have a taste, a hint, a smell, if you like, of the arupa dhyanas. And the way we're going to do this is we will just contemplate the space that our metta is taking up, and then also contemplating the consciousness that is perceiving that space. And we'll see how that takes us. So that may seem quite lofty from our starting point in the Karma Loka, the realm of desire. Maybe having quite a lot of stuff this evening. We may work with our stuff in the radiating practice and work with the dhyana factors, or sinking and drifting. But it may not be as far away as you think. It's quite vertical, the model's quite vertiginous. But it's just a picture. It's just a diagram. But diagrams can be changed, as we'll see. So we move on. Well, hey. So I often think actually is not like that. It's like you're looking in, and if you like, to the left of the diagram, you could imagine your eye. And depending on what state of mind we're in, what our perceptions are, we'll experience the Karma Loka. Maybe you can experience the Rupa Loka, the dhyanas. And as you come out of those deeper meditations, particularly on retreat, the world looks different. So sometimes I think it's much more about our state of mind and how we perceive reality, perceive the world around us. And interestingly, if you go to the commentaries, particularly of Sudhimagga, the path of purification by Buddhaghosa from the 6th century, from Sri Lanka, Ceylon. He describes getting into the arupa dhyanas from access concentration. And he talks about noticing, say, the space in a pot. So you look into the space, and somehow that takes you into the sphere of infinite space. So actually what we're doing this evening, in a way, using metta, is quite traditional. Okay, so we'll lose the slide at this point. So I'm just going to say a little bit more about the radiating practice. So we have 10 directions. Some of us may be familiar with the 10 directions. We're all familiar with the 4 directions: forward, back, left, or left in that stream, and right. We have intermediate points, which are the 4 intermediate points, and then we have above and below. So when we start the practice, we're just going to go through those 10 directions, radiating our metta. I suggest we radiate in front and then to our right, behind, to the left, and then fill in the 4 intermediate points. In a way, it doesn't matter quite what order you do it in. Interestingly, as we're doing this practice, we're all at home, so we should be familiar with maybe people in our house, our neighbors, people who live in our location, across the road, and so on. So we're radiating, we can include those people and direct our metta out towards them. And then over time, we'll just expand that out more and more. We can use phrases just at the start, so people in front of us, may they be well, may they be happy, can use the phrases that Chandraprabha mentioned in terms of the 5 precepts, that with deeds of love and kindness I cherish you, or however else you want to do it. You may just want to do it quite tactilely, just something from the heart. So that's the radiating metta practice.